Hey guys, welcome to Double Shot of Steelers. Today is Tuesday, April 1, and we're not going to be going through any of that shenanigans. The truth is, whether it makes the Steelers look foolish or not, they are very, very plainly not just interested in Aaron Rodgers, not just invested in Aaron Rodgers, but in bringing him aboard, and they're convinced that he's going to come aboard. So yeah, there it is. That is the apparent reality of what's about to happen. And I have one thought about that before I bring in Chris Halleck from Palm Beach, Florida. He's covering the NFL annual meeting for us down there. He spoke with Art Rooney just as yesterday. He spoke with Omar Khan just as the day before. He spoke with Mike Tomlin, and he'll be sharing with us his observations and his reporting from down there. I have one thing to say today before that, because I'm getting a lot of feedback from you guys. And as you might know and have seen over the years, I'm responsive to feedback. I don't ignore it. I don't throw it off to the side. I don't say, oh, we're above those people or that riffraff or whatever. I listen to you, and I respect what it is that you have to say in almost every case. I have a problem. I'm going to sound like, what was Costanza's dad's name? I got a problem with some of you people. Sort of the Festivus, right? And I do. It feels to me like there's this sense that either I or the show is becoming negative because we're not on board with the Steelers wanting Rodgers. I got to tell you, I don't think like that. I don't think that just because, oh, well, the Steelers have decided this is their guy, and it is our duty as Pittsburghers or Steelers fans or whatever it is to, well, we lost the fight, so now it's time to just support the guy and be the best supporter that we can of the cause or the team, excuse me, or even the decision. And I don't see why. I don't see why. Here's what I do see, and I think this is fair, because I took a similar stance when it came to Russell Wilson last year, because I wasn't in favor of that either. Come in and prove something. Come in and prove to me that you're the quarterback for the Steelers. Come in and prove to me that you can get this done at age 42, which is what he'll be when the season starts. Come in and show that. Come in and show that you care about being a Steeler, even if it's just for a year, even if it's just one little eensy-teensy-weensy road bump on your path to Canton. Show that you care about your teammates. Show that you're invested in winning a championship for a Cam Hayward or a TJ Watt. Show that. That's how you change minds. You don't just automatically change minds. And I got, if it sounds like I got a message from somebody yesterday that kind of tipped me off, it did. It was just from a viewer that said, "Come on, DK, time to get on board." I go, what? Get on board? What does that even mean? If Rodgers, is going to be a good Steeler, if he's going to be a good quarterback, if he's going to be a good teammate, including to other quarterbacks in the fold, who's to not say that there's going to be a different conversation had? But what would have happened between, let's say, today and a week ago, or whenever Rodgers decides to come in from the beach and actually sign his contract, and right now? What's going to change? The only thing that's going to change is you're going to have some people who think that, it's time to get on board. No, that's on him. That's on him. When we come back, I am going to be joined by Chris from down south.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
Welcome back, and here is Chris from his Palm Beach, Florida hotel. No doubt some 5-star special that you chose on our big travel budget.
Yeah, it was difficult to find something. I did not get to choose a Marriott. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, it's not the biggest city, first of all, and to have the event there is a little bit unusual on the NFL's part. But I'm sure they know what they're doing, and I'm sure they know why they had it there. Chris, I got to say that the stuff that Art Rooney had to say today, and looking over the transcript that you have up on DK Pittsburgh Sports, it threw me a little bit. I mean, he's so open and so candid about the Rodgers situation when he is, Rodgers, still unsigned. He is still a free agent. And that's not tampering anything. You can talk about free agents all you want.
Right.
But it just struck me as like, really? Wow. I mean, they sound, all of them, just certain that he's going to do this.
Yeah, and it's one thing because, Mike Tomlin, whenever he first spoke on Sunday, he didn't even want to say, yeah, we met with him.
Right.
He said it was reported that we met with him. And like he chose his words very carefully. Omar Khan didn't tiptoe quite as much. And then, like, as you said, Rooney today just flat out just spoke about it like it's just run-of-the-mill business. And
yeah.
They don't typically do that. Even Omar said, we don't talk about a lot of players, or we don't talk about players that aren't with the team. Well, they've been talking about this guy. Yeah, all three of them did. And Rooney, I thought, had his own little spin on it. Obviously, he said, I'm not content with waiting forever. But he said also at the same time that it sounds like he's going to be heading in our direction. Like all the signs are positive in that way. And so, there was a lot of question on like whether this is Mike Tomlin's thing, and it very well could be Mike Tomlin's thing, but obviously does not have Art Rooney's blessing, because if it didn't, this wouldn't be a thing. And I think Rooney's comments today just reinforced that.
Well, yeah, that's one of the many, many, many benefits of access, and that's why we fly to find these events and to find these people. You're not just getting the words on paper; you're getting the sentiments, you're getting the expressions, you're getting the feel for what it is that they're saying, and they are just all the way in on this. And I mean, I don't know what to say about the situation as a whole that I haven't said already, and I'm not going to pound it 7 feet into the ground. But I do feel that it's worth bringing up here that when you hear specifically Tomlin more than anybody speak the way he did of Mason Rudolph and of the signing of Rudolph as emphatically as he did, up to and including we trust him to be the starter, there has to be an understanding that there's a really good chance he will be. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like that you could not bring in just a normal backup into this situation. You just couldn't do that because he's 42 and he's 2 seasons removed or whatever it was from missing almost the entire thing. And I think that's something that came of value there as well from this thing, was seeing how Tomlin handled the Rudolph questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, and it kind of reinforces what we thought originally when they signed. When you even reported, a couple days before Mason even signed that they were interested. We were kind of thinking like, okay, what's the thinking here? Okay, well, it's going to be more in a support role. But the more and more we talked about it, and it was just confirmed this week, is that them signing Rudolph gave them the freedom to be able to wait out this Rodgers situation for as long as they want. Because if for whatever reason he decides to not sign, and that's still a possibility because he hasn't put his name on put pen to paper yet. If he doesn't sign, they have a guy that they're confident that can start football games for them. Now, that probably means that they might prioritize quarterback a little bit more in the draft. Maybe they, rethink some things. Maybe they pick up the phone and call Atlanta to see what's going on with Kirk Cousins. That all of that is speculation at this point. But what signing Mason Rudolph did, and what, like you said, what Tomlin said, what Omar said this week, reinforced that thinking that it's their safety net signing Mason Rudolph was their safety net. They have a guy who can start games for them no matter what. And if they can get Rodgers, who they obviously think is a better quarterback, then so be it.
DV says the rumor on social media is that Rodgers will announce his signing at the live Pat McAfee event in Pittsburgh this week. How pathetic would that be? I'm sorry.
It wouldn't surprise me.
I just think that's, you're coming in to join a venerable franchise. The 6 Super Bowl trophies are there next to the press conference room. And what are you going to do? Ride around on the Gateway Clipper with McAfee? And, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It would not surprise me because remember, this is a guy that last year when the Jets acquired Devontae Adams, he was literally on Pat McAfee. And then Devontae did that thing where he kind of came in from behind and was kind of holding the football and was like, yeah, and it was kind of like a pseudo announcement of what was going on there when the Jets were trying to get him. And so obviously Aaron was really excited about it, and that's the way that they handle, or that's the way he wanted to kind of put his own little thing on that. So it would not shock me whatsoever.
No, it would not. Victory says Aaron Rodgers should not come to the Steelers half-hearted. If you're in 100%. I agree with you, DK. Aaron needs to prove that there is a true commitment of wanting to be a diehard Steeler. Vic comes in with a $10 contribution, and that's appreciated. How does he do that, Chris? What does that look like? We saw Russ do that. Russ was hopping out here downtown from restaurant to restaurant with the posse supporting all the businesses and everything. I mean, Russ really put it on,
Yeah, that was one thing that you never had to worry about with Russ.
No,
not at all. I think, the way you open the show is probably a good way to do it. Show that you're invested, show that you're, and honestly, doing the throwing session with DK Metcalf is step one in many steps there. He doesn't have to do that. He can just sit there and, go in his darkness retreat or stand on his beach or do whatever he wants to do to make his decision. But, the
beach stuff will never
I
go
know.
away.
It will never go away. But he can do whatever he wants throughout this process. But the fact that he is doing tangible things, throwing with a guy who he could possibly be throwing the football to for the entire season, that matters to me. Whenever I'm trying to figure out how invested a player is, when I'm trying to read the full context of the situation, but it doesn't stop there. If and after he signs, how does he go to the voluntary programs? Does he go to OTAs? Does he go to minicamp? Even though it's mandatory, is he there? Is he active? What is he doing during training camp? Is he demanding to stay off campus? Or is he going to be in the same kind of dorm as everybody else is at St. Vincent College? Just seeing the level of investment as we continue to get closer to the season, that's going to be, I think, where we kind of see how this plays out.
David brings up a fair point here. I think seriously, what other teams even tried to get Rodgers? Did he ever have another offer? Even he seems like someone the teams are glad to leave. Let's bear in mind that the Jets basically told him to go away, that they're moving on.
Yep.
They chose Justin Fields. They chose the guy that the Steelers failed to secure. Okay. And then from there, the market was known to be Steelers and Giants. The Giants said, we'll take the Steelers' other quarterback. Right?
Yep.
Okay, we'll take the Steelers' B option. Okay. And then from there, the Rodgers camp, and I think transparently, attempted to manufacture the Vikings into being another party because they could see where this was going.
Mm-hmm.
The Vikings are then put in the uncomfortable situation where they have to go public and say, no, sorry, we're not. All due respect, man, we've got our quarterback of the future here. We're sticking with him and whatever, right? Okay. So then what's left is one team. Now, in the business world, this is known as negotiating against yourself.
Yeah.
The Steelers could, hypothetically, go to Rodgers' camp and say, you know what? We're not going to offer you more than 10. Just throwing that out there. Okay. Yeah. And either that or you're not going to play in the NFL and you're not going to have your ride on the Gateway Clipper and other weirdness. So you're going to take this or you're going to leave it. Do you think they're doing that, Chris, or do you think that they're just so starstruck by the whole thing? That's kind of, I think that's an offshoot of the point that's being made here in the question.
I think, well, first off, I think just part of the negotiation, you want to negotiate in good faith, and if you're gonna look at his options dwindle down and then pull your offer that you had on the table and give him a new one that has significantly less money, that's, if from the player's perspective, that's not negotiating in good faith. The Steelers probably already had a set number in mind that they were going to be willing to pay no matter what, whether he was going to have a robust market or have nobody else to compete with. They probably had set number, 1 year for this much,
You're
or
right.
2 years for, and they would just be like, okay, this is the offer. And from everything that's been gathered from this entire situation, money and contract terms have not been a sticking point whatsoever. This has all been about Rodgers figuring out his situation, going through his process of making his decision. The Steelers have pretty much put an offer on the table saying, we want you to be our quarterback. Let us know whenever you want to sign the contract. And that's pretty much it at this point.
Yeah, you're right. You're completely right about the bargaining in bad faith. If you start taking offers off the table because you're aware that his market is just you, and then you're not respecting the past and everything else. But that's yet another of about a billion reasons to not do this. But I have a couple of questions here from viewers that I've starred here. This is a good one here, Chris. Outside of Rodgers and Rudolph, is there a sense in the building of who else the Steelers might be interested in outside of the draft, if anybody? Or do you just remove that option now that you put Rodgers in? Because, the room's only so big.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they have 2 spots to fill, according to what Omar Khan said. But with them pivoting from Justin Fields, like going after Justin Fields, that didn't work out, and then pretty much going straight to Aaron Rodgers after that. I mean, and while that was going on, and they probably gauge, okay, this is not going to be a quick decision. We're not going to get a decision from Aaron Rodgers in a day. So let's reach out to Mason Rudolph. Let's see if he wants to sign, get that secured so we have our safety net. And then, so in terms of other options, I don't think there are really a lot of options being discussed because they haven't really gotten to that point yet because they're so confident that they're going to get Rodgers. And that's only been like absolutely reaffirmed throughout the week because pretty much like Tomlin, Omar, and Rooney have all admitted that like the communication line has been open between both sides throughout this entire process. So in terms of other possible options outside of the draft, I don't think it's going to be anything of significance because this seems to have all been about let's get Rudolph as our safety net and let's try to get Rodgers.
Richie comes in and says, you guys are so negative. You're Rodgers haters. What the hell does it matter when they basically came out and said that they're drafting a quarterback next year? This is a stopgap. Relax, says Richie. All right, I'm going to try this again. When you have an opinion about the quarterback position, you're not being negative. What you're actually saying here, Richie, is that we need to get on board because the Steelers have made up their minds. And by golly, the Steelers are right. Do you know how we know that they're right? By counting up all their playoff wins since 2018. Want to do that? Want to count them all up? Okay, here we go. Ready? 0. You know how many playoff wins they've had with the best defensive player in the world in that time span? Do you know how many playoff games TJ Watt has won? That's not a knock on TJ. Okay. Do you know how many victories he's been part of? Same number, 0. But you want everybody, Richie, to just get on board. Listen to the Steelers. My man Skunkworks, who I love, says we need to stop complaining. They're going to sign him, and he's going to be the QB more than likely. Oh, okay. Well, I take it all back then. I mean, if they're going to sign him, then this is what I'm talking about. This is not, to me, a healthy mindset. Okay, when your team hasn't won a bleeping thing in a long, long time, and it's had the same recurring problems in large part because of the same people making the same types of decisions, then being critical is healthy. Being skeptical is healthy as it's applied. I think a lot of good things about the Steelers, believe me, over different issues and different spans of time. Okay, I really do. I see certain things that they've done even this offseason, which I haven't liked too much, but that I've liked.
Yeah.
Okay. So this idea that you're just supposed to like everything that they say or you're not on board. Like, I don't buy this at all here. You know, Shaka Steele says, let's go Rodgers. I'm going to support him and the Steelers. That's your right. Don't inflict it on everybody else.
Yeah, and
you know?
I think the one thing, especially trying to come at things the way that at least the way I cover any team, is I try to provide as much full context as possible. I'm not just going to look at just all the things that Aaron Rodgers could possibly bring in a positive way, which I still think that there are some things. Like I said on yesterday's show, I still saw down the stretch with the Jets, looking at some of the film, I still saw some special in that arm. He still has the ability to kind of make those Rodgers-esque throws, not as often as he used to. He's 41 years old, but it's still in there, which is why the Steelers are interested and want this to happen. It also doesn't mean the fact that we're going to ignore all of the potential negatives that could come with it. You have to look at this through, at least from my perspective, you have to look at this through a full lens where here's the good things that could possibly come from it, and here's some of the things that are absolutely concerning based off of what we've seen in recent years.
Berg Boy says, how would it hurt the Steelers to have Rodgers as a bridge quarterback who can come and help grow a rookie quarterback? Well, I'm going to mention a couple of things. One is that, as somebody else just asked the question, who else might the Steelers be interested in as a young quarterback? Maybe that you get from somewhere else as a backup, a young backup who's blocked. We've mentioned the New England situation several times. Detroit has a similar situation. You can bring in that player and maybe see what you got. Even if it's just in practice settings, you can learn about them. You can maybe strike gold. You can't do that if that person's not in your fold. The other thing is help grow a rookie quarterback. Okay, so let's say that the Steelers draft Tyler Shuck. You see how much better I've gotten at his name, Chris?
It's really impressive. You said it yesterday without skipping a beat.
Gold, man, as opposed to the old guy in the draft, right?
Yeah.
But let's say they get Shuck. Who's going to mentor him in Latrobe? Who's going to do that? Out of this quarterback room, who's going to do that?
It'd be Mason Rudolph.
It would be Mason Rudolph.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm not just going to assume that Aaron just won't do it either, because until I see him do it or not do it, we really don't know. We can guess based off of precedent, but I'm not going to sit here and say there's just no chance he's not going to help mentor a young quarterback. And plus, the other thing with this Rodgers thing, it's likely going to be 1 year.
I mean, it has to be 1 year.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to be eligible for his AARP by the end of the year. Colton says, if Rodgers does come in, whatever. I just don't want to see him break up the continuity of the locker room. I can only hope the leaders in that room don't let it happen. They just lost 5 in a row to end the season. I wouldn't blow up the whole continuity thing to be more than it is, especially on offense. There's no leader on offense. There wasn't a leader on offense. They had begun to rally around Justin Fields in that regard. That plug was pulled. Russ came in. Russ put up a zillion points. Everyone got excited. And then, everyone knows how it folds. So there's not a leadership in that room, Chris. Am I correct here? That there's not, or is it, there's not. Najee Harris every once in a while tried to sound like he was, and we got to see that exposed, once he left and did nothing but complain.
Yeah, and I mean, when you go through the roster, the leader right now with who's under contract would probably be Mason Rudolph. Because of the years
guy that they would respond to.
Yeah, because I mean, when you look at, George Pickens is DK Metcalf coming in is probably another big one too. And from everything that I've heard, and it's not as much, I'm really waiting until we get to OTAs and really start to hear players' perspective on Metcalf. But I think that might be maybe not the grown up in the room like we would have seen with Cooper Kupp, but I think you're going to have he's going to be the alpha in that room, just based off of what he can do on the field and then the way that he's approaching. He really impressed me a lot at his introductory press conference. It really sounds like he's going to be a good guy. But when you talk about leaders, man, right now it'd be Rudolph.
Yeah, Dane says Jalen Warren and Zach Frazier are our leaders. Excuse me. No. Respectfully, you'd have to know both of these individuals to know that I'm laughing out of love here, not out of anything. They are not the most vocal people, to say the least. Love them both, but in Jalen's case, he's a quiet dude. He keeps to himself. Yeah. And where Zach is concerned, you can't get 3 words out of him.
With Zach, I think he's going to be more lead by example.
Lead by example. Well, Jalen can do that too. I mean, there's no way. If you're in a running back room with Jalen and you're sitting there watching the film and you're seeing him, and Najee too, to Najee's credit, with all these angry runs and carrying dudes down the field, that's leading by example. But vocally, that player is not in that room at this time, with the exception, to an extent, of Isaac Seumalo being the guy that they look to for quiet type leadership within the offensive line. And that's it. That is it.
How is Mason the leader? He gets more lost in the pocket than me in Disney World.
Dude.
He didn't in 2023.
Jeez.
And
you were stuck in 2019 forever and ever in this town.
The locker room also really responds to Mason a lot, and you can attest to that more than I can from that 2023 season.
It was something to see. And when you see George Pickens following you into battle, and then George moving to the front of that battle because of you and because of what you said to him all week, meaning Mason, that's a hell of a thing, man. I'm not going to sit here and cast Mason as being something that he's not. But Michael says that, George Pickens had his best game with Mason. Not singular. Yeah. It wasn't one game. Okay. Yeah. That was one of George's best runs. It was where George was really expanded into the offense at a time when the Steelers didn't even have a full-time coordinator. Mason said to him, I need you to run different types of routes. Listen, I don't want to keep doing this Rodgers versus Mason thing here or whatever. Okay. I get where this is going. Okay. And I'm not going to sit here and pound a debate that's going to become moot in short order. But I do feel that it's fair to kind of repeat the theme from today, that people are going to want to see something. They're not just going to get on board.
Yeah. I will say, though, the video that made on social media of the Rodgers throwing to Metcalf, that looked like a dig route to me. That's an in-breaking route. That's to the middle of the field. I'm just saying. And Arthur Smith, whenever he had A.J. Brown, there was a lot of middle of the field that was being used with A.J. Brown. So
listen, the best way that this script can turn out, okay, just so that we're all on the same page here, the best way that this script can turn out is that Rodgers is everything that the Steelers, or even if it's just Tomlin, hope for and expect that he'll be. Okay, I'm not an idiot here. I know that that's the best case scenario for this football team, because that's how you get to the playoffs, and that's how you walk into a stadium against Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or whoever, okay, and you go, oh, yeah, well, we've got Aaron Rodgers, 4-time MVP, okay, and you feel really good about yourself getting off the bus, to quote Andy Weidel, and everything happens like from an intangible sense. It's awesome, right? I'm not expecting that it'll be that. That's the problem. Yeah. Okay, so it's not a matter of rooting for something or against it or whatever. Colby says here, how about we talk about how bad the coaching is? That's the start of the problem. Oh, we got lots of these shows. Bill in Tampa comes in with a $5 contribution, says, how long would Art Rooney Sr. and Chuck Noll have put up with this soap opera? How long until we're going to get one of these? This isn't how you build a winning franchise. Okay, you're talking about something, Bill, respectfully here, that was 50 years ago. And I was a child back then, but I was aware enough that the stuff that those guys, first of all, Art Sr. presided over a terrible losing franchise for the overwhelming majority of his tenure, okay, as owner, okay, only he just had the happy ending, okay, that's it. Noel let his players get away with murder. I mean, I don't want to, burst anybody's bubble retroactively here or whatever, but he had players shooting at a police helicopter in Latrobe. I mean, there's getting yourself into trouble, and then there's shooting at a police helicopter in Latrobe. Okay, look it up.
I'm sure. I'm not denying it at all. I'm just picturing now, and of course, the only player that comes to mind that could possibly do that in recent history was Antonio Brown. But that's just because
AB would have been in the helicopter.
Well, as I'm saying, I associate AB with the helicopter, but it's just fun. It is funny because, and the main thing that I can say is just that the game has evolved so much.
So have humans.
Yes, I mean social media. Generations are different, man. It's like trying to compare how would this quarterback do in this era, how would this old quarterback do nowadays. It's apples to oranges. It's apples to bowling balls.
Frank says it's amazing how this script has been rewritten. Frank says 40 years known as lovable losers. They weren't lovable to anybody back then. Okay, when you hear people who actually lived in that era. Okay, and I'm talking about the 60s when the Steelers were just the worst franchise. They weren't thinking of them as lovable. They were thinking of them as the third entity in town, meaning below the Pirates and below even Pitt.
Yeah, Pitt football, yeah.
Which is unbelievable now.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's how bad the Steelers were. They weren't lovable. They were just a non-thing.
Mm-hmm.
Until Noel came along and changed stuff. And yes, the name, of course, attached to that was Ernie Holmes, meaning the shooting at the chopper. This actually did happen.
That does not surprise me whatsoever. Now that I actually seen him and knowing what I know about Ernie Holmes, that does not surprise me at all.
No, we're gonna take one more here to find a good question from somebody here. I'm gonna poke around. Craig here comes in and says, first of all, Craig, you got to get on board here with the membership here. I'm looking at the non-color on your name there. And the way to do that is to go to dkps.net/join. It's 99 cents a month. You're going to be part of members only chats and stuff like that. It says, I got a good one for you, DK. If Rodgers signs, do you see him staying in the dorms when they go to the training camp? Chris, you alluded to this earlier. Do you?
I would think so. I don't know of any time. I mean, do you know? I mean, you've obviously been around the team a lot longer than I have. Do you know of any time that Tomlin has allowed a player to not stay on campus?
Allowed is a little bit too strong. I think there have been guys who have stayed in dorms, and then there are guys who have stayed in dorms. Okay. Meaning, certain guys, Ben had a really nice one, and these were all legit. AB would find a way to stay off campus. Let's put it that way. Okay. Yeah. They don't go around knocking on the doors to see if you're there. There aren't curfews or anything childlike like that. So if you really, really wanted to leave campus and be somewhere else, you could do that. Now, that said, you're in Latrobe, which is not exactly surrounded by thick civilization. So there's only so many places that you can go. There isn't some, 5-star Renaissance across the street.
Yeah, we're not at the Breakers here in Palm Beach.
No, either. There's an airport, there's a get-go, and then there's a long road to get back to Greensburg.
Yeah. Okay. And you got Sharky's and Dino's as your two places to eat, and that's pretty much it.
No, that's about it. So,
yeah.
All right, Chris. Well, we'll do this again tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right, guys, let's take care of a little bit of business here. It's been a while since we've connected here. The boss is going to come up with what our new subscription level, our new membership level is on their way to 3,000. I want to go back and say, ooh, there it is, 1,756 as we're getting closer to the 2,000 mark. I'm going to remind everybody that it was just, a month and a half ago that we went with doing these shows live, that we were at 745 was the number. It's kind of burned in my head here. So we've already gotten 1,000 since then. And part of the reason that we've gotten that is people giving gifts to the show. Steven did that, came in today with 20. Stella came in with 20. I also see that Jeffrey came in with 5. We've had a couple contributions that came in too with the questions. Vic, our old friend, came in with 10 there, and Bill came in with 5. For anybody who's new or just showing up, first of all, welcome to what we hope will be the most complete and open-minded and diverse and informed and everything else Steelers community that exists on the YouTube channels. What we want to do here is to put together something that we think is special, and that when we get to Latrobe and our live reports that we're going to have from St. Vincent College, and when we get to the preseason, and then to the regular season, and then to Ireland, and then all this other stuff that we're going to be able to give you, because we're there. We're at these events. Either Chris or I are at something, or in some cases, like the games, both of us are there, and we're going to give you stuff that nobody else can give you, because we're in the room, we're credentialed, we're people who've covered this team. In my case, for a very long time, and in Chris's case, he's going to start getting there before long. So we have a fun product here that we're offering you. We would love to have as many of you on board as possible. Russell, as I say, that just came in with 1. So all of it adds up, as you can see. We'd like to get to 3,000 before we get to Latrobe. If we get there before that, hey, that'd be fine too. Exceeding expectations is just fine. Rick says, and he's going to get the last word today, this show is the only show that I've ever been a member of. You had a goal. I really liked the show, so that was that. I appreciate your views, DK. Don't always agree, but appreciate. Man, if you hear nothing else from today's show that resonates, let it be what Rick said, not what I said. We don't have to agree. We don't have to agree on Rodgers, but don't call me negative over it. I won't call you negative over not agreeing with me that Mason Rudolph should be the quarterback. Okay? I'm not going to say you're negative. It's just, it doesn't do anybody any good. It doesn't do any dialogue any good. We're here to talk about football. In this case, we're talking about the most important position on the field. I feel like that's fair game. All right, guys. See everybody tomorrow.